you have TikTok and you like basketball, you probably know Showtown Hoops.
Children of all ages, act like you know.
Yeah, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world? Y'all know what time it is when you see me. I know what it is. I am super excited. It's like it's Christmas Eve. It really is. How do I know that? Because basketball season starts tomorrow, right? Basketball season is in full effect. This thing is official tomorrow. Oh my God, I'm so charged about this. So charged. We've had some teams get better. We got teams locking up their young stars, signing guys to extensions. We got some surprises. What's up, S? I got a man in the UK. My man Mars is from the UK. Allegedly. But we got a lot going on. And opening night is tomorrow night. And I'm really excited about this, man. I get excited about a lot of things, but basketball season in particular, I really get charged about basketball season. It's just, when the weather starts getting cooler, the sun go down a little bit earlier. That says to me one thing. What's that? It's basketball season. And if it's not basketball season yet, it's coming. The sun goes down a little bit earlier. Weather starts getting a little cooler. Leaves start falling off the trees. I'm like, okay, it's basketball season. Let's get to it. Absolutely. So with that being said, you had some teams locked up a couple players for a couple of years. I am actually a fan of what Houston did. And here's why I'm a fan. I don't know if you guys know this, but Houston signs Sengun to a $186 million deal. That's as far as they were willing to go. That wasn't the max. That's just as far as they were willing to go, which I'm feeling that. And then they signed him to an extension for $186 million, which they own his bird rights. With them owning his bird rights, it's also a team-friendly deal because he's got a player option. I think Sengun is a potential all-star next season. I think you got a 20-10 guy who's really good on the block. He's got a really good mid-range game. He's really good with his weak hand getting to the rim. He's really good navigating around the rim. Defense is a little tricky. I'm high on Houston this year, though. I'm in the minority. There are plenty of people who really dig other teams, but I'm in the minority. When I talk about the Houston Rockets, I think they're top 5 seed in the West. I do. I think they're Sacramento from 2 years ago. I think that they're Oklahoma City from a year ago. And I say that off the strength of what they have now. What you're trying to sell me is you're trying to sell me that there isn't, because this is what I've heard. I've heard that there isn't much star power there. I heard that there isn't much star power there. I've heard that the coach is unproven, which is not true. Ime Udoka has been to the NBA championship. He got there with a group of young guys, but he ended up getting there. He might be a little bit unproven, and the star power may not be there, but I think they're on their way to doing something special in Houston. I feel like this group with Jalen Green, who I'm going to get to in a little bit, I feel like this group powered by Sengun offensively is going to be a lot better this year. When I think about what up, Lee? When I think about what Oklahoma City did last season, essentially coming out of nowhere. And if we're going to be honest, right? If we're going to be honest and we're going to have an honest conversation about this, by show of hands, how many of you, before the season started, said that in the Western Conference, there's a team that has a potential superstar? Because Shea wasn't a superstar at that point. He was on a team where he had made the All-Pro team for the first time in his career. He had never made the All-Pro team. He had made the All-Pro team for the first time in his career. And the next year, we're going to be at the top of the Western Conference with a rookie who hasn't played a game in the league yet, who had to sit out the whole last season because he was injured, so we don't know who he is. Physically, we don't know. And then another guy who's in year 2, who finished second in Rookie of the Year. You're telling me with that group, with that core, I ain't even talking about the group, with that core, with a budding superstar, a guy who just finished second in Rookie of the Year, and a rookie who didn't play the year before, because of injury, this team is going to be the best team in the Western Conference next year. That's what you're selling me. And on top of that, a coach who is becoming a great coach in Mark Dagnall. A coach who's becoming a great coach with Lou Dort. This is the crew that you have with Lou Dort. Your rebounding is really sketchy. And you did make the playoffs the year before, so there's really nothing to build on. Like, you got handled in the play-in tournament. Handled. This is the crew that you telling me with that core, this team is going to have the best record in the Western Conference next season, which is a nightmare of a league, which is a nightmare of a conference. That was your logic. But when I say this Houston Rockets team, who was knocking on the door in the play-in tournament, that was knocking on the door of the play-in tournament last season, they have a budding superstar, not a budding superstar, I'm sorry. They got a future star and maybe an all-star in Sengun, which I really like. I think he's going to be an all-star with Sengun, and they got him at a good price. They didn't have to overpay for him, which I'm loving this. I'm going to get to the money with these guys in a little bit. They got him at a good price. In the process of them getting him at a good price, they still keep their young core together. See, they got a lot of guys on rook deals. Jabari Smith still on a rook deal. Cam Whitmore still on a rook deal. They just extended Sengun. See, things get tricky when you got to start paying guys, because it's difficult to pay everybody, because you got the luxury tax, right? You got tier 1, then you got tier 2. That's where it gets tricky, and you got to start letting people go. But they've been fortunate enough to develop a lot of their young guys. So you got a young guy in Jabari Smith, who I think is a potential all-league defender. I think he's that good. You got Dillon Brooks, who, of the playoff teams, of the 16 playoff teams, you might be able to count on one hand how many of them he's not starting on. You might be able to count on one hand. You know how big of a deal I feel about Cleveland. I think Cleveland is a top 3 seed in the East. Dillon Brooks starting on that team. If Dillon Brooks was in Cleveland, he's their starting small forward. Yes, he is. Ahead of Isaac Okoro and ahead of Max Strus. He's their starting small forward. 100% he is. No doubt about that. I'm on the fence. If he's with the Knicks, he may be their starting small forward over OG Anunoby. He might be, considering health. He might be their starting small forward. I don't know if you could count on one hand how many teams how many playoff teams. I ain't even talking about teams in the league. I'm talking about the 16 teams. I'm talking about the 16 teams, the 8 teams in the Western Conference and the 8 teams in the East. I don't know how many teams in the playoffs. I don't know if I can count on one hand how many he's not starting on. I don't know how many he's not starting on. And if he's not starting, if he's not starting on these teams, he's getting significant minutes. If Dillon Brooks is in Boston, he's playing significant minutes. Significant minutes. Those Sam Hauser and those Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard minutes, he's cutting into those minutes. Yes, he's cutting it. And not only is he cutting into those minutes, he's cutting into Derek White's minutes too. Derek White's better than him, but he's cutting into those minutes. So you have a starter on a playoff team in Dillon Brooks. Not only do you have a starter on a playoff team in Dillon Brooks, you also have, I think, an all-league defender potentially in Jabari Smith. You got your starting 5-man in Sengun, and you have this to build around because it's clear with what they just did with their contract extension who their guy is. It's obvious who their guy is. And that's Alfred Sengun. That's their guy. Without a doubt, Sengun is their guy. That's why they went as high as they went with him. They went where they went with Jalen Green, who they also inked the contract extension to. Is $103 million over 3 years with a player op after year 2. Very much like what's going on with Fred VanVleet. That's a win-win. It's a win-win for both of these. It's a win-win for both of these guys. It's a win-win for Jalen Green, and it's a win-win for Houston. Now, there's some people who are telling me that Jalen Green should have waited. If you've seen the antics of Jalen Green, if you saw how he came out last year, he had that month of March. I think he averaged like 28 a game, 27 and 7 on like 49% from the floor, 40 from the long ball line. He was great. But there was new management in there, and that's only part of the story. We had a situation earlier in the year. It was at the end of November. We went from the end of a little over a year from now. From a little over a year, he went 16 a game on under 40% shooting. There was conversation that he may get moved. So they're not sure about Jalen Green. And I think this is a prove it deal, which I love that. And the reason why I love that is because, one, he's only 22 years old. This isn't a guy that's 27, 28. This guy is 22 years old. In the process of him being 22 years old, you got him for 2 years. So at 24 years old, he turns into an all-star. Not only does he turn into an all-star, your team turns into what your team you think it's going to turn into. With him, Sengun, Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson, Reed Shepard, all on Rookdale. Amen Thompson, Rookdale. Reed Shepard, Rookdale. Jabari Smith, Rookdale. Still got guys on Cam Whitmore, Rookdale. So when you have these young guys on these Rook deals, and then you're able to get a guy like not just Amen Thompson, but when you're able to get a guy like Jalen Green on a cheap deal, you can work with that. That's how the Warriors became who they were. They got Steph Curry on the cheap. They didn't have to pay him until later. They got him on the cheap, which I think is interesting because the logic was how injury prone Steph Curry was. When in reality, he played most of those games. He had that one season where he only played 26 games. But for the most part, he was in the lineup. He played 80% of the games. That's 4 out of every 5 games he's playing. So Jalen Green plays a lot, but that's the other problem. He play a lot too. And what I mean when I say he play a lot, I mean you saw the videos and the antics with him, his decision making. It could be a little bit of a question. So I can understand Houston's reluctance to hand over $220 million to this kid. I can understand their reluctance to do that, sure. Because when you're doing that, essentially what you're doing is like, this is the face of our franchise. When you think about the Houston Rockets, or when you talk about the Houston Rockets, this is who you're talking about. Him. And him only. They feel more comfortable with Sengun, and rightfully so, because Sengun has exhibited that he could be a franchise player. And this is the guy you could be building your unit around. I got no problem with that whatsoever. I think Jalen Green at the end of last season, when they were in that playoff push, when they were trying to get into the play-in tournament, when they were battling with the Warriors, I think he played fantastic. I 100% think he played fantastic. And with him doing what he did, right? With him doing what he did, that's a segue into next season, where we now see this guy, we see him get busy. Can he take this into next season and elevate this? Can that 19 a game, which was down from the year before, can he elevate that up to 22 to 25 a game And could it be on good efficiency? I know that we live in that kind of era today. We live in the era of we live in the era of numbers and analytics, which I'm not a big fan of. I feel like analytics are ruining the game. I do, but some of them are necessary. And before I go any further, D3 has a super chat, and D3 says, because I think D3 wants to big up. I think he wants to big up his people. Watch Yuki Karamura in Memphis. He's a 5'8" Magic Johnson. Oh, we know. I know who he is. He was on the Japan Olympic team. He was on the Japanese Olympic team. Yeah, I remember him. But the problem is exactly what you just said. He's 5'8". As much of a wizard as he is with the ball, still 5'8". That's small. Now, does that mean that he can't play? No, that doesn't mean that at all. But I think you want to shout your man out, and sure, we can shout out Yuki. Yes, we can shout out Yuki. But as I was saying, right? As I was saying, when you have an organization like what the Houston Rockets have, and you got a bunch of young guys, you have to establish a franchise player. And what Jalen Green did last year, going into this season, that's what they predicated this on. His game, but they also predicated this on how he conducted himself. Because again, when you're the franchise player, right? When you are the franchise player, you are the face of our franchise. James Harden was the face of the Houston Rockets. Steph Curry is the face of the Golden State Warriors. LeBron James not only was the face of the league, he was the face of the Cleveland Cavaliers when he was there. He was the face of that organization. You are who we rep. We represent you. You are a representation of us. So when they put that kind of money in his hands, they're saying this is our future right here. And when you're doing stuff like what he was doing, being immature with his antics, no, we can't risk that right now. That's why this deal is a prove it deal. And on top of it being a prove it deal, it's a team friendly deal because you're getting them at 30 million. You're getting them at 30 million, which is a good deal. So I like Burritos hit me with a super chat. He says, all we need is consistency. Don't care about no 20, 28, or 30 a game like March. I'm cool with even like 22 a game, so long as he's consistent and efficient. I think I'm in the 22 to 25 range. I think if you can get that on a Tuesday, in terms of being efficient, yeah, I'm with that. And this is a guy who the Houston Rockets, they think that he can be that, but they're not sure yet. But we're gonna give him this to show us. And I got no problem with that. I have no problem with that. See, the reason why Cade got what Cade got, because this is the class that Jalen Green was in. Cade, Evan Mobley. Let's see, whom else was in that class? Let's see, Cade, Evan Mobley. I'm thinking about somebody else who got a big deal in that class. I want to say no, France wasn't in that class, but I know Cade and Evan Mobley were in that class. I know those two guys were in that class. I think Sengun was in that class too, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But you saw what Cade got. Cade didn't really, for lack of a better term, show being a goofy. He didn't. That's who the other guy is, Josh. Correct. Scotty Barnes. I knew I was forgetting somebody. So Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley. The deals that they got were predicated on not just their game, but how they conduct themselves, how they handling themselves, how are they moving around here. Like, you don't see Scotty Barnes getting into no nonsense. You don't see Scotty Barnes on the internet acting wild. You don't see Evan Mobley doing anything like that. In fact, you see Evan Mobley in the summer working out. You see Evan Mobley in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. That's what the Cavs are paying for. That's exactly what they're paying for. And since we're on that subject, when you lock these guys up, essentially what you're saying is these guys are the future. You saw what the Orlando Magic just did with Jalen Suggs. 5 years at $150 million. I've had some people tell me that they might have overpaid for him. So I got a 23-year-old I got a 22-year-old starter on a playoff team that's an all-league defender, 23 years old. right? 23-year-old starter on a playoff team who's an all-league defender, tough as nails, who is with the drama, has shown time and again that he's not going to be pushed around. He will not be roughed up. Will not be roughed up. So the idea that they overpaid for him, just so you guys know, Julius Randle on the books in Minnesota for $28 million. This is a 24-10. This is almost a 25-10 all-league performer and an all-star. On the books for $28 million. Well, you can't compare Julius Randle to Jalen Suggs because we think that Julius Randle is overpaid. No, in fact, 28 million for an all-NBA performer, 28 million for an all-NBA performer that's 25-10 and an all-star, you got him on the cheap. And you got Jalen Suggs bird rights. So you don't just have Jalen Suggs on your crew. You also got his bird rights. So in 3 years, when he can opt out of this deal, in 3 years when he can opt out of this deal and get extended, and he's 26 years old, and he's up for another extension, and he's an all-league defender for the 3rd straight year, and now Orlando is knocking on the door 3 years from now for the NBA Finals because you still got Paolo on his rook deal. You still got Paolo on his rook deal. So in 3 years, when the Orlando Magic are knocking on the door, not just the East Finals, but the NBA Finals, because they're a legit challenger in the East. Legit. You got this guy, and you got his bird rights, and you got him in the fold, which makes a mountain of sense off the strength that I should be able to pay my players whatever I want. Red Auerbach was a genius for that. Red Auerbach is a genius for that. 100%. I want to be able to keep my own players. And if I could keep my own players, and if I've raised them, I've developed them, why do I have to hand them over to somebody else who can pay more? No. I should be able to do that. I should be able to hold on to my guy. So if you're offering 100, I can offer 120 and not be worried about the salary cap. Why? I raised them. This is my guy. I should be able to pay him whatever I want. That's just business. I thought Red Auerbach was brilliant in that, to come up with that idea where I got Larry Bird on my roster, and I don't want Larry Bird playing for nobody else. And I want to be able to pay Larry Bird whatever I want. That's what I want to be able to do. And I don't want to have to worry about going over the salary cap. So if at that time, and I know this sounds ridiculous to you guys today, but if at that time Larry Bird is on the books for $3 million and I want to pay him $4 million because I think he's worth that, and some other team wants to pay him $3.5 million, and I'll go to $4.5 million because I think he's worth that, and it's not going to affect the salary cap, why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? I should be able to do that. So I think that's great. The fact that Orlando owns his bird rights. I think we're going to see in the future with guys like Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Sengun. We're going to see a lot more homegrown talent because these teams, despite being in Cleveland or Minnesota, because Minnesota's going to end up inking Anthony Edwards, who told you some nonsense about, if he wins the championship in the next 3 or 4 years, he's going to go play football. No, he isn't. I don't think he has any idea how difficult it is. Not even to play pro football. Forget pro football. Just to play football. I don't think he understands how difficult it is to actually do that. So he's not doing that. That's hyperbole. That's not something that's really going on. But to my point, to have guys like that on your roster that you can overpay for, like what the Boston Celtics did with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Now, they might have to trim the fat with some of these other guys. Later on, they may have to trim the fat with KP because when you, unlike Unlike pro baseball, unlike pro football, you ain't winning on the cheap in pro basketball. You're not. You got to pay. You have to pay. If you look at the teams that have won the NBA championship, they had to come off substantial dough. Substantial dough in order to compete for an NBA championship. I mean, there's a lot that goes into winning it. Let's be clear about that. There's a lot that goes into winning it. But just to compete, you got to open up the checkbook. You have to. What is it going to cost for this guy? How much for this guy? Okay, how do we move on from him to get him? And what is it going to cost us to do that? That's the business of basketball. That is the business of basketball, which is why Ime Udoka couldn't stay with the Boston Celtics. That's another conversation. With that being said, I like what Houston did. I do. I like what Houston did. I like the fact that Orlando signed Jalen Suggs back. I love that. I like the fact that Detroit bagged Cade Cunningham. And the reason why I dig this is because when you sign these guys, essentially what you're saying is I got a franchise player and I have something to build around. That's why Brooklyn is going to be as bad as they are. That's why Brooklyn is going to be as bad as they are. You're not building around Nick Claxton. They signed Nick Claxton to a $100 million extension. Yeah, I do know that. But you're not building around Nick Claxton. Detroit is building around Cade Cunningham. 100% they are. 100% they building around him. When the Orlando Magic signed Franz to that $224 million deal, this is our franchise player. This is who we building around. Him and Paolo. And we get the necessary pieces. When you get a guy in the fold like that, now it suggests that, okay, we have a direction, as opposed to we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea what we're doing. I feel like Chicago has some sort of direction because they got Josh Giddey, whom they're looking to extend if they haven't extended him already. They got Kobe White, and they got the Rook Baselis. That's your core. And one thing that I've learned in basketball cities is if you're honest with the people, I've always known this. In basketball cities, if you're honest with the people and you keep it a bean with them, I can tell you right now, they'll get behind you. They 100% will get behind you if you're honest with them. So if the Chicago Bulls tell the people, Josh Giddey, Kobe White, and Baselis, this is our core. This is what we're moving forward with. We're not a playoff team yet. Nope, we're not there yet. But this is what we're moving forward with, and we're going to build around these guys. So just be patient with us. The people in Chicago will get behind them because you got a young point guard. You got a really good guard in Kobe White, and you got another budding star, future budding star in Baselis. People get behind you when you're honest with them. When you keep it a bean and you're honest with them, this is our crew. This is what we're rolling with. Okay, bet. Let's do it. As opposed to, we got Josh Giddey, we got Kobe White, and we got Baselis. We making the playoffs this year. No, you're not. You're not. And when you do that, you turn into the Knicks. Right? You turn into the Knicks in the early in the late 2010s, early 2020s. That's what you do. But when you're Houston and you have a young core with Jalen Green, 22 years old, Sengun, I think he's 23, Jabari Smith, 22 years, Jabari Smith, 22 years old, Amen Thompson, 21, Cam Whitmore, 21, Reed Shepard, 20. You got a bunch of kids and you're building around it. You're building with this unit. And you're telling everybody, this is who we're building. This is what we're building. And Alperen Sengun, this is the guy we're building it around. I'm being honest with the people. And don't tell me that it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. 100% it does. When I see teams like Cleveland who know that the window to win a championship or to at least compete for an NBA championship The window to compete for an NBA championship is not, it's open like this. It's not open long. Not only is it not open wide, it's not open long. So you got to get what you can get when you can get it. I had a conversation with my buddy Mars. I had a conversation with my buddy Mars. I got a moth in here. I had a conversation with my buddy Mars, and Mars tells me that that doesn't mean that you're getting better if you ended up winning a first round playoff series and you avoided the team that knocked you out the year before. I tend to think that because I didn't have to see them, and we did advance, that doesn't mean I'm not improving. We just didn't have to see them. I watched the Houston Rockets, who didn't have to see the Seattle Supersonics in '94. They went on to win the NBA championship. Then the next year, they didn't have to see Seattle again. They won the NBA championship again. So clearly they were improving because they won the NBA championship. Just because I avoid this team does not mean that I'm not getting better. I am getting better. And Cleveland has gotten better. So when I watch them re-sign, like when I watch Cleveland re-sign Evan Mobley, when I watch them re-sign Donovan Mitchell, when I watch them re-sign Jared Allen, what does that tell me? Yo, this team, when I watch them re-sign Okoro, when I watch them bag Max Strus, okay, they're not playing. They serious. Okay, we're serious. We're dead serious about this. And I love that. I absolutely love that when I see teams who exhibit how serious they are. When they show that, yo, we're not playing. We are trying to compete for the NBA championship. Yes, we're trying to do that. And I respect that. I 100% respect that. Now, you do have teams that have a losing culture, like the Charlotte Hornets. And in the process of the Charlotte Hornets having a losing culture, it's hard to get behind that, even though, I actually like what they built down there with the collection of talent with LaMelo, Bridges, this young kid, Salon, Miller. You guys know how I feel about Mark Williams. I actually like what they're building down there. I actually enjoy that. But it's difficult to get behind them considering what their culture has been. That comes into it too. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. Tomorrow's opening night, man. I think it's great. What up? What up?
What's good, man?
What up?
What's up with it? Can you hear me?
What's up, brother?
What's going on? I just really logged into your channel. I seen you a few times. Speaking about the old Rockets for us, 95, 94. You know what I'm saying? Hakeem Olajuwon. I seen you pay homage and respect to Hakeem a lot. But what's the topic for right now? Because I'm from H-Town. I'm a big Rockets fan. Shout out to my boy Greenleaf Exclusive. We
Mhm.
speak Rockets all the time
Yep.
on here. I know you know Ticket. You know what I'm saying? What's the premise of the conversation? Because I
I'm,
just
talk-
really logged in.
I'm talking a lot about these guys getting bagged with contract extensions and the fact that Alperen Sengun, his deal was for 186. So it's obvious how they feel about him. With Jalen Green, his deal was for 103. They like him, but I think that this is more of a prove it deal. And I
Right.
think it's good. I don't think it's just good for the Rockets. I think it's good for Jalen Green too. 22 years old. He had a great he had a great second half of the year last year. That month of March and April, I think he averaged like 27, almost 28 a game, 28, 7. And I think he did work. So now that's a prelude into next year. But because of the nonsense that he's gotten into on the internet, you see the antics. It's hard to give a 22-year-old $200 million when you see stuff like that. It's
Well, I
really
mean,
difficult to do that.
speaking as a big Rockets advocate, I just don't watch the team every. Like I've been watching the team since I was 9. That's first time they won a championship. So I'm just not speaking on. I'm not no bandwagon fan. I've been with the ups and downs. It's been a horrible 3 years, really 4 years. Under Steven Silas, and now we got a Doka who changed the culture. So it's a big shift. But as far as Jalen Green off court, He ain't really been in no antics, man. Yeah, the situation with Drea, that's probably much it. But it's off the court.
Sure.
So he haven't really he really a good kid. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah,
you
no
don't
doubt
really like
about
he
that. You, but here's the
he not
question.
getting.
I got a
What's up?
question for
What's
you,
up?
Rich. A question for you, Rich. So you
What,
saw the stuff that he was doing with his boys when humping on them and stuff like that. And I mean, goofing around, sure, it is goofing around. But when you're talking about being the face of a franchise, and I'm gonna give you $200 million, the stuff with him messing around with a chick that's 15 years older than him, okay, sure. But when you're the face of the franchise, there's things that aren't okay anymore. Like I gotta
right.
curb this. I can't act like this. That's not to say that I can't have boys. That's not to say that I can't hang out with my boys. That's not to say that I still can't have fun. But there's a way I got to conduct myself if I'm going to be the face of a franchise.
Right. No, I agree with that. When you're speaking about dollars, when you're speaking about owners like Timon Fertitta, he's the owner. So as it all predicates on business. So in that aspect, I get it. What he did with Josh Christopher, I don't okay it just because how I was raised as a man. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
but you got to think how old they was. Like that
Kids.
was a long time. It was kids when they did it. So I
Yep.
can understand if he did it while he was in the league, just getting into the league. Some reason it got exposed. I don't know. Whatever reason it was. Okay, cool. And I
Mm-hmm.
get what you're saying. The premise of that you are trying to be a face of a franchise. And I believe this contract, you hit it right on. You hit the nail on the head. It's a proven contract. That was my biggest worry going into it because I got them real high. I might be delusional. I don't care what your people say. I got us as a 6 seed this year.
I
I
got you
get
as a
it. They got
Rich. You think you do? I got you as a top 5 seed.
okay, cool. Hey, I'm just speaking on what everybody's saying as far as that's outside of the Rockets community. I got us as a 6 seed. You know what I'm saying? And the contract for Jalen, I think it was a big contract for him because that was my biggest worry was them both going into this season, both
Mm.
not signed yet. That was
Yeah.
my biggest
Mm-hmm.
worry. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? And now they got paid. I feel like that pressure of a contract in the back of their minds, because let's just be honest, they're young, they want to get paid. That's the way of the rules of the NBA. When you're young, that's the first thing on your mind is getting
Sure.
paid. So now you
Absolutely.
got your first contract out the way. He got a proven contract.
Mm-hmm.
He got paid versus him trying to prove it and not paid. He got guaranteed money now. So
Yep.
now let's go work with Shengun. I just think this is I think with this contract it's more so he wanted comfortability. So this is a contract for him to be comfortable, but Shangoon is the type of guy I think that once he gets paid, he's gonna go out there and prove why he got that money. Last year, I think he proved it enough. He got hurt in Sacramento. He got shut down for the rest of the year. But I think what I'm saying that the whole squad they got a whole mentality this year, man.
Now remember this.
So
Now remember this too, Rich. Now we also talking about when I double back to Jalen Green. So it wasn't like you just mentioned. It wasn't just the antics. That was part of it. But
right,
remember, so now you bring in Ime Udoka. So now I got to change the culture of what's going on around here. It was Animal House. It was a frat house. There was no
right,
discipline there. They had, if I'm not mistaken, because I do watch the Rockets, right? So I think the year that Steven Silas was there, that last year, they led the league in fourth quarter turnovers. They had the worst team in the league in the fourth quarter. They had more they had more turnovers than anybody else in the league. They were going into fourth quarters with leads. There was no discipline. Not only was there no discipline, there was no structure whatsoever there. Ime Udoka comes in when he sees Jalen Green and he goes, "I got to straighten this kid out." And it didn't go well early. We're talking about a kid who earlier in the season last year, the first month of the season, I think it was not the first month. I'm sorry. It was at the end of November. From the end of November to the end of December. And you're a Rockets fan. You can attest to this. From the end of November to the end of December, he's averaging 16 a game. There was talks that he might be out of there.
yep,
He might be gone. Like maybe this ain't the guy. We might have the wrong guy. Then he was able to turn it on. And the reason why he was able to turn it on, because he bought into what Ime Udoka was preaching. You got to start playing a different way. And he started doing that, and it worked. So now what the Houston Rockets brass, they're not trying to hear is they're not trying to get tricked by a small sample size. We need to see a little bit more of it. We're not saying that we want you out. No, we're not doing that. But let us see a little bit more of it. That's why this contract is what it is.
no, yeah, I definitely do agree, man. It's like I said, it's a prove it year contract,
Yep.
and since Jalen has been in Houston, he hasn't put it together for a whole 82 games. Now, the only thing I say that was leaning on Jalen, he played every game.
Yep.
He's
Horrible.
not and that's terrific. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, if you're gonna be there, you got to produce. He just hasn't produced for a whole 82 games. So this year, like you said, like you attest to it. Like this is a proven year. Like
Yeah.
let us see it in a larger sample size versus 11 games. He was amazing in those 11 games,
Mhm.
but we got to see it under pressurized situations. Because when the pressure amounted, let's just be honest, as young teams do, they failed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Which that comes with the territory. So this
Absolutely.
year now, another year under Udoka, I think the chemistry with these guys is gonna play a big factor. Also, health. They're one of the deepest teams in the league. Let's just be honest. They're the youngest and one of the youngest and one of the deepest teams in the league. So I just think this contract is basically just
It's
it
team
just
friendly. It's team friendly and it's friendly for him too, because it's not like he's
yes.
getting paid. It's not like he's getting paid nothing. No, it's team. It's friendly for both of them. So I really like what y'all doing, Rich. Like I said, brother, I got them as a top 5 seed. I get roasted for that. I do. I get roasted for that. They think I'm crazy, and I'm like, if I told you, and I got to get going, but like I said, if I told you a year ago that the Oklahoma City Thunder at this time last year, if I told you the Oklahoma City Thunder, they got a future superstar, a guy who had made the All Pro team for the first time the year before last. He had made the All Pro team for the first time. You got a rook who hasn't played 1 minute, and you got a second year guy as the core of your group. This team next year, they're gonna have the best record in the Western Conference. Rich, you would have said, "Yo, get this goofy ass nigga off the internet.
hey,
Stop playing with me, man.
Chill. You definitely right about that, my brother. You definitely right about that.
Get this goofy ass dude off the internet."
Hey, Chill, keep doing your thing, baby. I'm gonna keep
Absolutely,
listening
brother.
to you.
Good to talk to you. Yep. Y'all would have told y'all if I would have said that about Oklahoma City, I would have been like, man, get this goofy ass dude off the internet, man. He don't know what he's talking about. Meanwhile, them dudes win 60 games. And now SGA is turning into what he's turning into. I think Houston could take that now, could they be the best team in the Western Conference? I'm not going that far. No. Because I think the Western Conference is a nightmare. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But I do think that they're going to be much better than people think that they are. Much better. I think they can be that team, that the Sacramento from 2 years ago that went from 12 to a top 3 seed, and Mike Brown won Coach of the Year. Last season, Oklahoma City goes from a play-in team to they got the best record in the Western Conference. Houston goes from being knocking on the door to play-in tournament to being a top 5 seed. I don't know why that's ridiculous to think that that could happen. I don't. So, what up?
Yo, what up, Chill?
What up, brother?
Yeah, man, I'm big on Dillon Brooks. Big on Dillon Brooks too. I think he can bring like a level of toughness to them, and like he
Mm-hmm.
can establish a culture. Kind of like I don't really want to. I guess I do want to give him the credit for how the Memphis Grizzlies was.
Mm-hmm.
Was he on that team whenever Ja got hurt and they had still won like 20 something games,
Not
or
last
they
year.
had won?
No, that was
Okay,
last year.
no, no,
That was
I meant the year he got hurt and they went on like a streak and they were the number, I think they were the number 2 seed.
Yeah, he was on that crew. Yes.
Yeah, yes, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he
Ja,
was a
ja
big
rolled his
he
ankle. Yes, I know what you're talking
yeah.
about. Ja rolled his
Yeah, I
ankle.
think
Sure.
I think he was a big part of that. So I'm excited to see like how he does with the Rockets. So I'm real
Classic.
big
I
on
was
him.
I was actually running down, and I don't know if you had heard me. I was running down the 16 teams, playoff teams, both in the East and the West. And I'm thinking to myself, who isn't Dillon Brooks starting for? If I'm looking at these crews, all 16 of them, and I look at these teams, who is Dillon Brooks not starting for? Because, for example, you know how I feel about Cleveland. If Dillon Brooks is on Cleveland, they starting small forward today. He's penciled in as their starting small forward. He starts in front of Okoro. He starts in front of Max Strus. If he's on that crew today. If I'm looking at Orlando, so they got Paolo, they got France, and they got Paolo, they got France, and they got Wendell Carter. So, and they got Jalen Suggs. They need a lead guard. So he probably ain't starting there. And if he's not starting on the playoff team, he's pushing these guys for minutes. I can promise you that.
Yeah,
Promise you
most
that.
definitely, most definitely. And I like that whenever they were in the playoffs, I knew he was like one of those like those pesky guys that can get under your skin.
Yep.
Whenever LeBron went and he came and talked to him before the
Mm-hmm.
pregame, like letting him know, like like you need to know who you talking to on LeBron and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So that's when I really became a fan. Even though they lost, I'm like, man, this dude, like he know how to get under your skin,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like he's the type of dude that like a team needs. And then I'm excited for like the season though, and
I am too.
I'm
I
ready
am
for
too.
tomorrow especially. because I really hope that Luke Cornett can like take that next step. And I think that I think Tatum's gonna have another great year. I think he's gonna average 30 again this year. Because I think having that, I've been trying to tell you like over the past couple of months, I think having that inside presence is really gonna like help Tatum out a lot. So because he's such a great playmaker, so with him and Cornett in the pick and roll in the preseason, man, that looked like good offense right there. So I'm ready to see how they can run that in the regular season.
I'll tell you what, and as much as people talk about Cornette, and mark my words on this, it's October 2024. I think Cater pushes Cornette for those minutes.
You think so, Jim?
I do. I
You,
think
you don't you don't like what you saw in preseason?
No, it's not. It's not that I don't. I like what I saw from Cater. I like the potential as a rim protector. I like what I saw as a rebounder from what I saw from Cater. I think he pushes Cornette for more of those minutes. He's not going to play Cornette out the lineup. I'm not going that far. I don't think he's going to play Cornette out of the lineup, but I do think that he pushes Cornette for some of those minutes. Just
What
as
is
a
it
rim protector,
about Cornett that you don't like?
the athleticism more than
Yeah.
anything. And in this league, it's if you're not a great athlete, boy, you better be able to do something special. If you're not a great athlete, and I look at Cater, he's raw. He was raw in a lot of areas, but man, I think he's a much better athlete than Cornette, and he knows how to play. He's not Sims with the Knicks. Like I don't think Sims knows how to play at that level. The great athlete that he is, I just don't think he knows how to play. And because he doesn't know how to play, it's hard for him to get run. Because if you look at him on the surface, how strong he is, how high he jumps, how fast he is. Like, why is this dude not on the floor? Well, he doesn't know how to play. And it's not that they're not teaching him; he's just not getting it. I feel like with Cater, I think that window is open for him because I think he does know how to play. And I think that he is picking up the game a lot faster, the pro game in particular. And I feel like the athleticism with him, I think he can push Cornette for those minutes. It's one of those good problems that I think about.
For sure. And then last thing, Penn's got me really wanting to see the Raptors this year. Because one thing he pointed out with Mikal Bridges, he's been having some shooting problems. I didn't know that the Raptors head coach was like the assistant at Phoenix when he was there, and he kind of helped him a lot with his shot. So I want to see how the Raptors are going to do and like how Scotty Barnes and what kind of level he's going to get to. So I mean, I'm just ready that the NBA season is starting back tomorrow.
There's plenty of guys that I've been introduced to by other people. Like I got introduced to Herb Jones by somebody else. Like I didn't know who Herb Jones was, a late second round pick. And I had people telling me years ago, yo, you need to pay attention to this kid, Herb Jones. You know how I feel about Herb Jones. And when I hear stuff like that, when somebody tells me, yo, chill, I need you to start watching because they got this kid who you might want to check him out. I made a vow this season that one, I'm not gonna watch the good teams as much because I already know who they are. I know who the Celtics are, right? I know who Minnesota is. I know who Oklahoma City is. I already know who Denver is. So I am going to pay more attention this year to the other teams. Like I told Penn, I'm gonna start watching more Toronto Raptor games. I am. I'm going to watch more Toronto Raptor games this season, just like I had to do last year with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, there was an incentive because they had Wemby, sure. That made it a lot less difficult. But I did say that I was going to start watching more San Antonio games. I'm going to do that this season with the Raptors. I'm going to do that with the Raptors, and I'm going to do that with Utah. I'm going to watch more Utah Jazz games this year.
Yeah, for sure. Before I get off, I want to say one thing about that WNBA Finals game. A lot of people, I think you said it too, a lot of people were saying if you don't want the referees to play a problem, then handle your business early. I mean, I got a problem with that. The New York Liberty was the best team in the league. And I think that the Minnesota Lynx did everything they could to not let the referees control that game. So I don't see how people are saying that they should have handled their business so the referees wouldn't have like caused
the reason why I brought that up, Classic, is because when you have two of your stars, I want you to imagine Kevin Durant and Steph Curry going 5 for 30. Y'all got to beat them. And it can't be like this. Y'all have to handle them. It can't be a nip and tuck. It can't be a nip and tuck game.
The Lynx did that, but the Liberty had like 20 more free throw attempts than they did.
Yes, they did.
So how can they beat that?
Well, but the way that you can beat that is, one, by having a double-digit lead and holding on to it. The way that you can do that is by getting the ball to Nafisa in the post more than you did, instead of taking shots like Williams did and riding the big girl in Nafisa, because she played. I think Nafisa's like 6'1", 6'2", but she played like she's 6'6".
Right.
She absolutely plays like she's 6'6", 6'7". So what you do is you ride her more. In addition to her, you take better care of the basketball. You hold on the leads. Two of these 5 games, classic. I know that in the NBA, it's a game of runs. It's like that in the WNBA too. It's a game of runs. But when you got a double-digit lead and you're that good defensively, with a double-digit lead, you're supposed to hold on to that. You're supposed to hold on to them. When you got a 15-point lead, when you got a 12-point lead, you cannot lose those games. You can't. And then
Yeah,
planning.
that's a tough ask because I mean, like I get what you're saying, trying to get the ball to Nafisa, but the Liberty couldn't get the ball to John Kell because that's just how good those teams are. Like those are the 2 best teams in the league, chill.
Sure.
Like I saw Nafisa. She was a couple of times like she kept getting all these jump balls with her and Stewie. I'm like, how is she doing that?
Tying
And
up.
then even with Stewie on the other end, if you're trying to pass the ball to Nafisa, Stewie's a great athlete too, so she's going to be watching those lanes as well. So I think the Lynx did everything they could, man. But I don't know. I guess everybody see it differently.
We'll see it. All right, brother. Good to talk to you.
All right, man. Yeah.
Yep. I watched that game last night, and one, I don't think they went to Jacquel nearly as much as they could have, and I don't think it was because of. I don't think it was largely due to Minnesota's defense, because in the end, as a perimeter player, it ain't hard to get the ball into the post. I don't care who covering me. It's not hard to get the basketball into the post. Even though on that level in the NBA, you have guys who are taught to just throw the ball in the post. It's not that hard to get the ball in the post, yo. And when you have Jacquel with Nafisa on her, and Nafisa can't cover her in the post. No, and she's burying Nafisa. When she's that big, getting the ball and leaning on Nafisa all night, I don't think they went to her nearly as much. And I don't think that had anything to do with Minnesota's defense. I just think that the reads weren't there. And I think that their inability to get her the ball more. There was plenty of times where I saw Jacquel screen and then beg, and she's wide open. All you got to do is throw the ball over the top, and she'll get that. I saw her screen and then slip, and then Nafisa, and she'll slip, and Nafisa will get switched onto her, and she'll bury Nafisa right in the middle of the lane. I'm like, throw her the ball. Throw her the basketball. They didn't do that, and the reason why they didn't do that was because they weren't making the correct reads. It wasn't because they couldn't get her the ball. I can appreciate the defense being in your face. I 100% can appreciate that. What I can't appreciate is how can you not get the ball to the big man or to the big woman, to the big girl. I don't understand how you can't do that. There's no way that you can't do that. So what up?
What's up, man?
What up?
About the WNBA game, I agree. Now I don't think in the fourth quarter, I don't think that was a foul. I don't think that was the reason why they lost the game. That wasn't the reason why they lost the game. I remember I checked in the second quarter or so, and I think they were about like 12 or something.
12 points. They had a 12-point lead in the second quarter. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, I thought they would just keep like harping on that and just probably just take the game over and just win it. But they had another chance to win in overtime, and another reason why I say that that it was really just the Minnesota Lynx fault is that they scored like 2 points in the overtime.
Did they even score in the overtime? I don't remember that.
Yeah, they scored one bucket.
Yeah,
they scored one bucket. They
I don't remember them scoring. Because I remember Nafisa scoring late, but I don't remember them scoring.
Yeah, they had scored a bucket. They scored a bucket by like 2 minutes left in the in OT. Like literally was just locking them up, bro. Like,
and you know where that comes from, Marcus. The reason why and it wasn't because they weren't getting good action. That was largely due to what happened with James Worthy in '84. Well, what do you mean when I say what happened with James Worthy in '84? When James Worthy turns the ball over and Gerald Henderson steals the ball, where they had the game iced, Gerald Henderson steals the ball, and then Magic runs out.
Stole that ball, yeah.
And then Magic runs out the clock. Well, now instead of we got an opportunity to win this, James is still on the fact that he turned the ball over in regulation. He ain't off that. He's still on that. So now you get the Minnesota Lynx in overtime. They got an opportunity to win the WNBA championship. You know where they at? They still stuck on the fact on that foul call. They still on that. None of them are off that. They still on that. That's what we were.
In professional sports, man, like you gotta even no call or call, whatever the refs call, bro. Like you just gotta suck it up, bro, and just because it's over with. Like they called it. You know what I mean? They called it. You can't do nothing about it. The only thing you can do is just you can't determine the past, bro, but you can determine what happens in the future. And
we still got another chance. We still got another opportunity. We got 5 more minutes.
OT is a chance.
We got 5 more minutes to win.
OT is a chance. And if you that mad, then hey, next time you there, blow them out. So it wouldn't be no competition. That's what I say.
I can tell you right now, Marcus, Sabrina ain't gonna shoot 0 for 10 on the long ball.
She was
that's not gonna happen again. I can tell you. That's not gonna happen again. I can tell you that. So five between Stewie and Sabrina, I think they were 5 for 34, something like that. That's not happening again. That's not gonna happen again.
5 for 34 is insane, but
no, that's not happening again. It's not. So if you get that opportunity where you get 2 stars to shoot like that, you gotta win that game.
Sabrina was like what, 1 for 20 or something?
1 for 19. 1 for 19. We gotta win that game, yo.
Man.
We can't because that's not gonna happen again. It's not.
Nah,
it's not.
It can't.
No, it's not gonna happen. So
I think they dropped the ball with that, but yeah.
100% they did. So all right, brother. Good to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's just not gonna happen again. It's not where imagine if you can imagine not just one, right? Imagine both of them. Can you imagine in the 2010 NBA Finals, Bryant goes 5 for 20, and then Powell goes, I don't know, 4 for, or Powell goes 3 for 21. The Celtics ain't losing that game. Hell no. They're not. In fact, they beat the Lakers going away. They beat the Lakers going away. Can you imagine last season? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Jason Tatum in that game 6, game 5, I think he went 11 for 24. And Jaylen Brown, I think, went 7 for 23 or something like that. But if Jaylen Brown is as tough of a matchup as it was for Dallas, you're not selling me that Jason Tatum goes 3 for 18 and Jaylen Brown goes 7 for 25, that Dallas ain't winning that game. We got to win that. We have to. With them dudes shooting as bad as they shot, we have to win that game. So when you have a performance like you had from Stewie last night, who, by the way, got another opportunity because she missed 2 free throws. She goes back to the strike. She had missed 2 free throws. You had plenty of opportunities to win that game last night. Plenty of them. Don't tell me that you were robbed. Do not tell me that you were robbed, because you had plenty of opportunities to win that game last night, and you didn't. You did not. And because you didn't, what I can't hear you do is I can't hear you blame the officials for a call at the end of the game. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to argue that there are calls that do determine games. I'm not going to argue that. No, you could get that. You can get that logic from me when the game is nip and tuck. The problem is when you had a comfortable lead and ultimately you gave it up. You ultimately gave it up. And now you don't want to. Now what you don't want is you don't want the referees to involve themselves in the game. I've always said this. I refereed women's college basketball for 5 years. When I stepped out on the floor, when we stepped in the middle of that circle and we had the team captains, I said to them very simply, this was always my pregame speech. I would tell the women, I would say, look around. They would look around, and I said, nobody bought a ticket to come see me. You are the show. You're going to involve me in the show. How much you involve me, that's up to you. I'm not going to involve myself. You're going to involve me in the show. How much? That's up to you. And for the Minnesota Lynx to have double-digit leads in games and not win those games, and then now we're in a space where we have to rely on the referees not making a call. That's a you problem. That is a you problem more than it is a me problem. No. You had plenty of opportunities to win that game. And tomorrow night, I'm doing the Lakers Minnesota game on playback tomorrow night. So that should be good. That should be really good stuff. The season is in full effect. As you know where to find me at. If I'm not here, I'm on a panel from 11 to 2. If I'm not there, me and my man Tony Tone, Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, we will be right here. You know where to find us. So it's about that time for me. I will see you guys soon. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. When last time you talked to your mother? Call your mother. I will talk to you guys soon, man. But until then, take it light. Take it. Absolutely, man. It's good to see you guys. This was
It's going down. It's going down. It's going down.